Unbelievable. Government advises airlines to spray pesticides on passengers. Wait a minute. Hold on. I thought pesticides were supposed to only be sprayed on plants. That is, if we even consider them to be healthy. But according to Natural Health 365, the government says we're supposed to spray pesticides on passengers? Whoa, man, this is something else. Have you ever felt sick after flying, only to assume it's jet lag or a virus you picked up from another passenger? Well, think again. You might have been exposed to an insecticide, pesticides, or other toxic chemicals deliberately used by airline staff. I think airline passengers should be outraged to know that poisonous chemicals are now being sprayed on planes regularly during the flight, while travelers are inside the plane. This is true. The United States government is actually pushing this agenda of poisoning passengers. Transportation.gov, aircraft disinsection requirements. Disinsection is permitted under international law in order to protect public health, agriculture, and the environment. The World Health Organization and the International Civil Aviation Organization stipulate two approaches for aircraft disinsection. Spray the aircraft cabin with an aerolized insecticide while passengers are on board, or number two, or spray or treat the aircraft's interior surfaces with a residual insecticide. Residual method, while passengers are not on board. And of course, provided is some visible evidence within these videos here of her walking around while everybody's in the, this is insane, while everybody's in the plane and she's spraying insecticide or pesticides. Reminds me of Nazi Germany. Are airplane cabins safe or a gas chamber? First of all, for those of you who are wondering, who cares? It's insecticide or pesticide, man. I mean, that's everywhere. Do you actually know what's in these things? What's in the insecticide or what's in the pesticide? You have what's called a microbiome. Everybody does. It's in your gut flora. And when they spray these particular chemicals on food, you ingest those. See, the reason why Monsanto got away with it for so long, well, part of the reason why, was because they were saying that the, what's it called? The shikimate pathway, which is only found in plants or organisms that are of plants or not humans, those are only found in plants. They're not found in humans, so the genetically engineering process that they do to the plants, it would never affect the humans. And of course, the chemicals that they spray the plants with, it kind of cuts off, the combination cuts off the shikimate pathway. And it just so happens to be that they are so far off that we don't have these organisms which live inside of every single living person. They're on every single living person. Because we have trillions, hundreds of billions of trillions of organisms that happen to have shikimate pathways that live within us, in our gut floras and in our gut microbiomes, and they affect our health. They affect our mood. They affect our social reaction, and so on and so forth. They cause mental disorders. They can either prevent or cause allergies. There are so many things, and here they are spraying people with them. It's astonishing to see that where America is heading and where the world is heading, because it's international. Now it's okay to spray people with pesticides. Wow. The International Civil Aviation Organization and World Health Organization admit that aircraft cabins are being sprayed with what they are calling a fast-acting insecticide, with passengers on board right before takeoff. Some airlines are instead treating aircraft interiors with a residual insecticide aerosol right before the passengers get on board. This is truly sickening behavior. These toxic chemicals are also being applied directly to the aircraft's internal surfaces, and to make matters worse, passengers get to breathe in this crap into their lungs. Now, of course, in this next video here, the airline passengers are being sprayed with toxic chemicals during a flight, and the airline staff person says, "Don't film." Passengers automatically agree to being sprayed with pesticides when buying airline tickets. The spraying of toxic chemicals, like pesticides or an insecticide, inside an enclosed, pressurized airplane cabin is beyond alarming. It is an assault on the senses and nervous systems of the passengers of the plane. Those with a pre-existing health condition or compromised immune systems are even more at risk for suffering unwanted health effects. You got to think about this. Chemicals are not good. Ever since Monsanto began to engineer and spray our plants and our food, how much worse have things got? Oh, we're saving the world. You know what? We've got these genetically engineered crops that'll save the planet because we can stop starvation with our genetically engineered patented seeds that completely destroy everything about humans, that completely kill off people, cause diseases because we're being paid by Big Pharma, and so on and so forth. We've done an entire exclusive on Monsanto and, of course, GMOs and where to buy your food and so on and so forth. Serious health issues reported from toxic pesticides and insecticides sprayed on planes. No duh. Of course there would be. Many airline passengers are already reporting negative health effects from exposure to toxic chemicals on flights. For example, flu-like symptoms, sinus issues, rashes and hives, headaches, and swollen joints are just some of the horrible effects. You know, I got to tell you something real quick. We live in Indiana. And Indiana has so many crops of corn. Lovely corn. Oh my goodness, if I could stop seeing corn and see some mountains, I'd be so happy. So many rows and rows and rows and rows and rows of corn. And I got to tell you, we live in a place called Fortville. I like to call it Fartville because it stinks of pesticide. It is horrendous. It's a little speck of town outside of other bigger towns, whatever. But the corn and everything that's around here and all the pesticides, insecticides, and so on and so forth that get sprayed, you can literally feel it in the air. It's disgusting. It is disgusting. I mean, I'm trying to give you a good example here. I'm getting too personal. And so the example I'm going to use is our cat. We have two cats. And one of our cat is extremely allergic to certain things that are in food, certain things that are in the air. And she's very sensitive to many different things. And since we've been where we are, the amount of symptoms that she's exhibited from pesticides and herbicides and so on and so forth have quadrupled. You can physically see the rashes that are on her paws and on her legs and on so on and so forth. I mean, it's terrible. It's amazing how both her and I don't exhibit more. Emma and I don't exhibit more symptoms because we can feel the effects. Like you can feel, just when you live around it for day in and day out, it's bad. Let me just put it that way. It's really bad. Buyer beware. Who denies health and safety issues from airline insecticides? I mean, obviously, these are not. We're not the only ones going through this. There are thousands and thousands and millions of people all across America who have severe health issues, who've gotten extremely sick, who've practically died from pesticides and herbicides, and of course GMOs, genetically modified organisms. And of course, flu-like symptoms, sinus issues, rashes and hives and headaches and swollen joints are just some of the horrible effects. And inflammation, of course, is another thing that can be a part of this as well. However, far more serious illnesses like acute respiratory problems and anaphylactic shock have occurred. Chronic issues affecting the neurological and immune systems have also been reported. I don't think I need to say any more. This is the stupidest thing that the planes have ever done. The aircraft and so on and so forth have ever done. The World Health Organization. They are literally building gas chambers with chemicals, and people are okay with this. Wake up. Stop eating chemicals. I mean, you got to realize, though, too, when you go to a store and you're going to try and buy organic, you have to realize that they're also altering the microbial structure of their food because it's practically like the restrictions are so great, it's almost like they have to be sterile. Not exactly, but you get my point. It's not natural. It's organic, but it's not natural, which is why the best thing you can do is buy from a local farm that does not use herbicides and pesticides. I mean, my goodness, we could even go into the vegans who completely have just said, we're done with meat. Hey, I get it. Meat, the way they've done meat in the factory farming is disgusting. But you got to realize that the reason why we are supposed to eat meat is called copper imbalance. Copper, the amount of copper that's found in plants, it gives you more estrogen and an enormous amount of estrogen. Which, if you're a man, of course, what does that do? You have testosterone. It counteracts. I mean, so on and so forth. They combat. It doesn't work out too well. So being a vegan is not the answer because it's also in the plants. Well, now it's on planes, but it's also in the plants. I mean, there are various different things, and it's a various different system that they're all attacking us with. Most people like to say you're nuts. Read the ingredients. That's all I gotta say. Do you even know what half those ingredients are? Total insanity, but that's all the information I've got for you guys right now. I want to thank you all for watching and listening. God bless and carry on.